pillow off. We want to make sure we have at least 4 lengths of yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, going back and forth to have plenty. Would rather have too much than not enough. Okay, so we want to make sure of the 20 loops that we have, 10 on both sides, each one has a kind of like a parallel pair on the other side. So each one is going to have one that lines up nicely to it all the way to the end. Okay. So the way that this is going to work is the loop on the left is going to lay down and the loop on the right is going to lay down on top of it, and they're going to line up nicely like that. So you're going to use your finger as kind of a placeholder. So we want these to fall down and these to go right on top of them, but we're going to have to work one at a time. So I use my finger to kind of hold the place. So the left loop is falling down and the right one is falling down on top of it. And now what I want to do is take the tail or the working yarn and feed a loop through both of these, taking the place of my finger. So my finger's kind of holding the spot. I'm going to use my other hand to feed the yarn in. And I've got a loop, kind of like what I've been doing throughout. So now this loop just stays for a minute, and now we're going to work with these two. So again, I want the left one down and the right one on top of it. So to hold the place, I'm going to use my finger, put the left one down, and then put the right one right on top of it. I'm leaving this one alone. So my finger's kind of holding the place. So again, I've got my tail here, or my working yarn, and I'm going to push this yarn through this hole where my finger is. So you can kind of squeeze your thumb through as well to sort of grab it. So now I've got the loop that I made before and a new loop. And I want to string this loop through this one so that they're locked. And now I've only got one. Okay, we can re-fluff after. Okay. So again, I'm going to tuck this guy down, forget about it, leave it alone. And now I'm working on the third pair. So again, I'm going to use my finger as a placeholder, leave this loop underneath. I want the left side on my finger first, and then the right side on my finger second. And now this tail is going to make a loop through these. So again, take this yarn, feed it through. So now I've got a new loop plus this loop that I already had. So this new loop is going to go through the old loop. Okay, now I'm working on my fourth pair. Leave this loop underneath. You can kind of set it down flat. So I put the left side loop down, the right side loop on top of it. And again, I want this working yarn to create a new loop through both of these. So I've created a new loop. I've got the existing loop from the last one underneath it. So I want this new one to go down and through the one that I made previously. The fluff is kind of getting in your way. Okay, so now those are locked and this is not going anywhere, and you'll start to see a little pattern. Okay, again, left side loop falls down, right side loop falls down on top of it. My finger's kind of holding them in place that way, and I want this yarn to go through those to create another loop. So here's my new loop. Here's the loop I made before that underneath it. So this goes down and through. If you could see the inside of this, it would look like the braid, kind of like what we made down here. Okay, again, left side loop falls onto my finger, right side loop falls onto my other finger. This yarn pushes through both of those, making a new loop. I've got the old loop underneath it, and it goes through to secure. left side loop, right side loop, leave this other loop underneath, working yarn makes a new loop through both of those. And now this loop is big enough and long enough to kind of go through the one underneath it. Left loop on my finger, right loop on my finger, working yarn goes through both of them to make a new loop. Here's the loop I made before, and I tuck it underneath. So this is like the underbelly of the cast off underneath. Okay, only 2 more pairs to go. So I take the left side, the right side, using my finger to hold them in, make a loop through them both, the working yarn, put that loop through the other loop that I made before. Now I've got 3, so I'm just gonna use I'm gonna use this last loop that I've made to put it through. So I have one little last knot to do. This tail, can pull right through it. That creates a knot. We're gonna wanna do a double knot. Try to get as close as I can to the corner. You can either trim it here, or we can tuck the tail back through the pillow to hide it. There's your pillow.